My name is Donna Webb. I'm the manager and curator for the Chickasaw National Capitol in Tishomingo, Oklahoma. Today I will be providing a virtual tour of the Chickasaw Capitol. I'd like to welcome you to the Capitol, to this amazing building, and it is an amazing building. It's beautiful to look at. One interesting thing about the Capitol is that it looks different in different seasons, and it looks different in different light. So when it's sunny, it's beautifully pink, and when it's cloudy, it's a little bit darker, almost a brown color. So it's a very unique building in that the color changes on the outside depending on the weather and the time of year. Welcome to the Chickasaw Capitol. This is the main exhibit room here at the Capitol. We do have a timeline in this room. We start this room in 1856 and we end it in 1907. The way we have set the exhibits up, we have them separated by decades. So the first area in the main exhibit room is the 1850s. This is focusing on the early years when the Chickasaw Nation established its government. We also have information about some of our leaders: Edmund Pickens, Cyrus Harris, the first elected governor. And when you go from this area to the next, we have a very nice transition from one decade to the next. We have several cases in the main exhibit area that focus on different aspects of Chickasaw life. We have our school life case, government life. We have several different cases as we go through the main exhibit area. I will point those out. The next area of the museum covers the Civil War era, 1860s. This is a very important time in Chickasaw history. Everything started changing after the Civil War. The Civil War eventually was responsible for a population shift that happened here in the Chickasaw Nation. Thousands of people came into Indian Territory during the course of the war, which started the problems that we had as far as land and land distribution, people taking land, the Chickasaw Nation trying to hold on to their land. We have flags hanging in the corner. These are recreations of flags that were carried by Chickasaw and Choctaw regiments. We have many historic photos throughout the Capitol. Many of the pictures on the panels in this area were taken in the city of Tishomingo, in this area. And connected to the Civil War, we have the soldier's life case. We have redone this case many times, trying to get it right. Originally, we had represented a Chickasaw soldier wearing a Confederate uniform with Confederate objects. We learned by doing research that Chickasaw soldiers did not receive supplies. They did not receive uniforms. They would have worn whatever they left home with, the clothes on their back. Unfortunately, we did not lose men to battle during the Civil War. We lost Chickasaw men to disease and starvation. These were very hard times in the Chickasaw Nation, and any man that left home and went to serve with the Confederacy sometimes made it back, sometimes didn't. The next section of the museum in the main exhibit area, we're dealing with the 1870s. This involved land, Chickasaw Nation trying to keep up with its land, and what some men were trying to do during this time to make a living. Many Chickasaw men became ranchers at this time. Cattle became a way to make money. The land in Indian Territory was not always good farmland, especially in this area. So many Chickasaw men went into ranching raising livestock. We know that the Chickasaw government even passed a law requiring Chickasaw ranchers to brand their cattle. People stealing cattle turned into a huge problem at this time, and to be able to keep up with which cattle were yours was important. We had several governors during this time that were trying to keep up with the huge influx of people into this area. Some were trying to pass laws to adapt to that. The problem was enforcing the laws. We know that by 1870, Chickasaw people were outnumbered just about 10 to 1 in their own nation. And being able to enforce laws was almost impossible. The federal government had decided that if you were not Chickasaw about this time in history, by the 1870s, you did not have to abide by the laws of the nation, even if you lived here. When we go into this area, it's a continuation. We're going into the 1880s, which is a time in Chickasaw history when a lot of the problems that were happening here in the nation were being settled in the courts, or the federal government was deciding the future for Chickasaw people. The main things that we cover, the main issue in this area is the information we provide about the Dawes Commission. The Dawes Commission defined who was and was not Native American. 5 gentlemen from Washington, D.C. were appointed to come here to Indian Territory, and they decided who was Native and who was not. They were actually set up in this area of what is our main exhibit area. This would have been office space in 1898, and the Dawes Commission was set up in this building for about 3.5 years, off and on. Chickasaw and Choctaw people would have come into the Capitol to sign up on the Dawes rolls. It was up to the Dawes Commission to decide if their enrollment papers were accepted and if they received a roll number. Governor Robert Harris, who was responsible for the construction of this building, was governor during this time, and he was having to deal with all of these issues. Land allotment, the Dawes Commission, many important decisions that were being made at that time. In the next area of the main exhibit space, we are focusing on the Capitol. We have artifacts, we have photographs. The first object you come to in this area was originally on the building. This is the cupola ball. This is what the flagpole would have set in. We know by documentation, actually there was a newspaper article written about it in 1922, the Capitol was struck by lightning, and that is when the cupola ball was knocked off the top of the building. We do not know how it ended up in Ada, but we know it was given back to the Capitol many years ago when we were working on the exhibits here. And because we got it back, we decided it would make a nice exhibit to add to this area. The vault that is in this section of the museum space was not original to the building. We were told when we first started working in here that the vault was put in by the city of Tishomingo. We know now that the Dawes Commission actually requested a vault in this space so they could store documents, papers that they were collecting while they were working in here. So that would have been a storage area. No money in the vault, just documents and paperwork. We have artifacts in there now. On this panel, it's interesting in that, and we wanted it close to the cupola ball. On top of the Capitol, you can see the original cupola ball that we have in the exhibit case. That was the original. This is the one that got blown off the building by lightning in 1922. This is actually a photograph of the dedication of the building. The Chickasaw Capitol was dedicated on November 17, 1898. It was a grand celebration, that's how we refer to it. It was actually a full-blown party here. The dedication went on all night long, we know that. In this area, there was a full orchestra set up. You have to imagine this room without all of the exhibit items, the cases, the text panels. This was a full open room. And yes, there was a full orchestra. We know the music that was played that night. This case right here, Social Life, we're actually documenting some of the things that took place the night of the dedication. One of the big draws here at the Capitol the night of the dedication was the fact that the Chickasaw Capitol was the first building in Tishomingo to have artificial lighting. We had gas lights here at the Capitol, and a lot of people came just to see the lights come on that night. The end of this exhibit space, we are going into statehood. This is a very serious part of our exhibit. This is talking about what is in the future for the Chickasaw Nation? How are they going to deal with statehood? What is happening? How will they keep their traditions alive? How will they live after statehood, knowing that all of their land had been taken back by the federal government? So we really wanted to focus on traditional life here and how Chickasaw people were trying to maintain that. Something I felt was important was talking about the spiritual and traditional life and the important part churches played in the life of Chickasaw people. So we have many pictures, a lot of history, a lot of oral history was passed down to me to be able to do this panel. In this area, we have an activity table for children to visit the Capitol. We provide crayons, activity sheets. In fact, we have our own Chickasaw National Capitol activity book where we have photographs that we have put onto paper that kids can color. We also have a section where they can draw whatever they want to, something they found interesting here, which we ask them if they want to take their drawings with them or leave them here with us. And we have something special just to put those drawings on. We have a magnetic wall based on the archway, which is on the south side of the Capitol building. This represents the front of the building. This is a recreation of the archway. The next area of the Capitol that I would like to show you is the original location of the governor's office. We have recreated the office to look as it did in 1898. This was the office of Governor Douglas Johnston. He was the only Chickasaw governor to serve in the building. So we recreated the office around him. Everything in here, all of the information focuses on Douglas Johnston, his life, what he did for the Chickasaw Nation. Unfortunately, we do not have the original furniture in here, but we did try to recreate it as it would have looked. We did a lot of research about Governor Johnston, so I learned about some of his interests, personal stories. He loved to read, so I actually took time to find some books that I knew Douglas Johnston would have read. He enjoyed Charles Dickens, he loved Shakespeare. So I made sure I found some copies and put on the desk. We had his original stationery, so I scanned that, made some copies, actually made new stationery to put on the desk that has the original seal of the Chickasaw Nation. The image above his desk is the original seal. This seal was actually done in 1856 when the Chickasaw Nation established its government. Governor Johnston is made out of latex and he does look very real. We wanted to have him in here to represent the real governor that was in here for a few short years. Douglas Johnston was governor for almost 40 years, and we wanted this room to give people an idea of what it would have been like to have spent time in this office. Just adjoining the governor's office was the National Secretary's vault. National Secretary would have been an appointed position in the Capitol. The governor appointed the men that served as National Secretary. Originally, there would have been a doorway where the wall is right there. The National Secretary had an office across the hallway. The vault would have been used by the National Secretary. This was more for the storage of documents and paperwork important to the nation. Money in different times was not actually kept in here. If we did have some, it would have been a special occasion. But this is the original vault door, which is important here at the Capitol to have something that is original. There was also the question, the mystery about was this a vault or was this a jail? We know this was a vault. The photograph on the panel in front of the vault has a picture of the original jail, which was outside. That is the Chickasaw National Jail. It was built in the 1870s. It was on the north side of the Capitol grounds. So we know that this area was a vault, not a jail. Also in this area, we tried to do as much research as we could on some of the officers who served here at the Capitol that were appointed by Douglas Johnston. National Auditor, National Secretary, and National Treasurer were three of the most important positions held here at the Capitol. These positions would also have been held when the brick building was being used. We tried to find as many photographs as we could. Some of these men, actually their positions predated photography, so we did not get pictures of everyone, but we got as many as we could. And we went back and did research, and actually we found out descriptions of their job duties. What they did on a day-to-day basis here at the Capitol. Some of the men that served in different positions. So some of the men may have been a national treasurer, may have been a national secretary also at some other time. In the mural that is behind the panels is a image that was taken sometime in the 1920s. We can define that by the railroad tracks and by the electrical poles. The Chickasaw Well was dug in 1892 with money appropriated by the Chickasaw government. One of the duties of the national jailer was to bring water to the Capitol, and the closest place to obtain water was about 4 blocks from here at Pennington Creek. So the well was dug for the convenience of the jailer. After the Chickasaw Nation left the building, eventually this area was covered with asphalt and the well was filled in and basically lost as far as to the public. Eventually, in 2006, there was a construction job here at the Capitol, and some of the men working here had parked a lift machine which cracked the asphalt and fell into a hole, which turned out to be the well. After it was rediscovered, we did some more research and decided to do an exhibit here. The well house is recreated to look exactly like it did originally. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed our virtual tour and learned some important facts about the history of the Chickasaw National Capitol.